What's up? It's your boy Money D Luffy back with the Culver's Crew UA, and today I have my top 32 deck profile from Bandai Card Fest Dallas. I was able to go X2, finishing 20th overall. This is the top 32 version of the regional action point. So some different coloring over here with the text and some nice texture. So a cool prize card for sure. I played Roy Mustang. Going into the event, there were a few different decks I was considering. I thought I had narrowed it down to Mustang or Lancelot. And I was actually going to play Sakuna before just going back to Mustang and knowing that it was the deck. So let's get into the list, starting first with the Roy Mustang package. We have, of course, 4 of the 5 drop raid. This is the whole reason to play the deck. On play, you get to draw a card, and when he attacks, you can pitch cards to KO your opponent's cards. For an opponent's character that's 1000 BP, you get to do it for free. And you discard a card to add 1000 BP each time. So he can take out a lot of different bodies based on the amount of cards you pitch, or the damage or the BP that you've reduced over the course of the turn. He also gets impact if you have no cards in hand, so you can pitch your whole hand to give him impact. It also has the benefit of letting you pitch an extra card to send the card that you remove to the removal area instead of the sideline. This is nice against Lancelot because if you remove the 6 drop, they do not get the little Suzaku back to their hand. They don't get the raid target back to their hand. So, Roy Mustang, broken card. Let's take a look at the other Mustangs. Of course, we have 4 of the 0 cost get trigger. Um, Obviously, a great raid target. We are running 3 of the 1 cost nullify impact. This is from the starter deck pack. Um, has a draw trigger. Nullify impact is always helpful. I'm running 3 of the 2 costs. This on play gives an opponent's character minus 1000. So obviously there is natural synergy between the 2 drop and the raid. And then lastly, I am playing just 1 of the 4 cost Roy Mustang. This card's pretty good, but just don't really find myself playing it a whole lot. This deck is so consistent that you can pretty much just raid every turn, and he doesn't really come in handy a lot, but he is good. Um, you get to draw a card when you swing with him if your hand is empty. So definitely not a bad card. He also gets 1000 BP if you have 2 or less cards in your hand. Doesn't come up a ton, but it's nice when it does. So that is the Mustang package. Up next, we have, of course, the best girl, Riza Hawkeye. This raid card is absolutely bonkers. When you raid into Riza, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and place one on top or put them all at the bottom. Now, this is going to be a common theme for the Riza Hawkeye cards. And really, to me, this is what makes this deck so consistent, is your ability to stack your top deck to get exactly what you need at the time. So often you're going to be stacking one of these 2 cards, or you're going to be stacking a raid source that you might need. You may stack a double energy source if you might need it. It's just so versatile. It also gets better on play. She gives an opponent's character minus 1000 BP for the rest of the turn, and she even activate main gets to do it again. So even on the turn she's not played, she can still give minus 1000 to something. On the turn she is played, she's giving minus 2000 either 2000 to one thing, 1 to 2 different things. And this card is also crazy out of life. You give an opponent's character minus 1000, they're going to swing with that 4K, and now you can block it because it's 3, and you now have a 4K blocker. Not only that, but you are stacking your top deck for the next turn. Broken card. We of course have four of the zero cost Riza. This has the Git trigger. Now, another reason Riza is so good and why this deck is so consistent is the one drop Riza Hawkeye. It has a draw trigger, and when played, you get to do a very similar thing to what the raid does, but instead of looking at four cards, you only get to look at two. And you also have the option to put both of them on top. You can put both of them at the bottom. You can put one and one. And again, I am just aggressively searching for one of these two cards or some of the double energy targets that we'll see starting now with Riza Hawkeye 3 drop. This card doesn't have a trigger, but it has a very strong on play. As long as you have a Roy Mustang on your board, you draw a card when you play her. She provides a double energy, which is absolutely critical to this deck because your Roy Mustang does require you to have five. Um, One of the ways you can lose with this deck is to just not get to a fifth energy, so it's very important that we run two energy providing cards. We'll see some more as we look at the rest of the supporting cast. So moving on from other characters other than Roy and Riza, we start with our final zero cost that we run. This is Vato Fallman. On play, you draw one, trash one. Again, more consistency. This deck wants to see its pieces. This helps you see those pieces. He also has a draw trigger. Great card. There is a searcher that you can play that searches for only Riza. If it searched for either one of them, you would probably play it, but I think Vato is the right call for this deck. Your color trigger comes from Maze Hughes, and this card provides two energy. Super important. It's a 3-drop. And activate main, you can pitch a card to give him 1,000, so he would become a 4K. This can be used late game to help him swing in. And then also when sidelined, if you have two or less cards in your hand, you draw a card. So this, of course, pairs with Roy because Roy, you sometimes do burn your hand down. Maze Hughes can help you fill it back up. So great card there. Perfectly fine color trigger for the deck. And then finally, we have three Edward Elrics, but they're not the same cards. First, we have the 4-drop Ed. On play, you can draw a life card. So not sideline, draw a life card. And if you do, he stands up active. So he essentially says, draw a card, switch to active. This is a great card for early game to get in some damage and present a body that your opponent is going to struggle either A, attacking over, or B, removing. And if they do use a special on this, that's a special that they don't have for Roy later. If you are not at 1 life, you can use this late game to push for lethal damage by taking that life. You also can use this late game to push for lethal because he has another effect where you can pitch 2 cards and give him impact. Roy lets you pitch cards to get impact, so does Ed. This card also has a draw trigger. Really, if it wasn't just for the fact that, it wasn't a Mustang or a Hawkeye, you would potentially run more of these. I do think that the Edward Elric is better than this 4-drop Roy, so that was how I squeezed in 2. And then the other card that I recently added to the deck, which made the Roy Mustang 4-drop go down from where I originally had it at 3 down to 1. I did cut my second for the 2-drop Edward Elric that provides a second energy when it's active. So this is just another way for you to ensure that you can get to 5 in order to be able to play out your Roy Mustang. Again, it's one of the main ways the deck can lose is just not seeing its pieces. And so having a 9th card that provides a second energy, I thought was worth the inclusion. Even though it doesn't have a trigger, it can still be super helpful. And then finally, into the events, I am running, of course, 4 specials. Flame Alchemist, kill a 5k if you have a Roy. And then for finals, the State Alchemists there themselves, Roy and Ed. So that's the deck. It worked great for me all day. I'll quickly go into my matchups. I did play against Toto round one and two. I beat it round one, lost to it round two. So I did take an early loss. And then after that, I played Gawain and won. Round four, I played a Lancelot, another win. I beat Toto round five. Round six, I beat Bambi's, which seems like a really cool deck. Unfortunately, my opponent soft bricked here. He didn't brick fully, but he definitely didn't see, the pieces. And then round seven and eight were two more wins against Lancelot. A lot of people think that Lancelot is a really bad matchup for Roy, and I think going second helps. And again, this card removes a 5k easily. Roy can remove a 5k. You might have to pitch an extra card, but you have multiple ways to reduce your opponent's BP, right? Be it from Roy Mustang, be it from Riza Hawkeye. So Lancelot, yeah, it can pop off, yeah, it can be scary, but it's definitely beatable. I was 3-0 against it in this regional. Going into round nine, unfortunately, the pair down did win, so we had to go to a ninth round, and that meant if I won, I'm top eight. If I lost, I knew that since my first loss was round two, I would probably not get top 16. And unfortunately, I did lose round nine. Despite seeing three of the one drop Rizas, despite raiding Riza 3 times herself and pitching cards almost every single time on those. The only time I did not pitch was once when I left a special at the top of my deck because my opponent had 2 Sukunas, and I knew that I needed to remove one. Unfortunately, by the time I did see a Roy Mustang, it was the 32nd card in my deck. And it was just too late at that point. The game had gone away from me. I only had 2 life remaining, and my opponent still had 4. So unfortunately, I did lose round 9 and fell down to 20th. But top 32, not bad. I did, of course, want top 16 to get my invite to Nats, but potentially one will pass down to me. I think only one will pass down at all, but you know what? That's okay. We'll try again next time. But that's the deck. Definitely wouldn't have changed anything about the list. Definitely wouldn't have changed anything about my deck choice for the event. Roy Mustang is a really, really strong deck that definitely rewards a good pilot. Not saying that I'm a great pilot or anything, but I think a lot of people undervalue this card, and a lot of people don't use these cards as aggressively as you can. Again, when I play these cards, I am looking specifically for a double energy, right? So Ed, Maze Hughes, or Riza if I don't already have one. So if I don't have a double energy in my hand and I play the one drop, if the top 2 cards are not these or the raids, they're getting buried every single time. So check out the deck if you haven't. If you haven't played it aggressively with the stacking, try it out. And thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Culver's Crew UA. We'll have hopefully more regional top deck profiles coming, and definitely some more gameplay coming soon. So peace.